Beloved soul, if you found this message today, take a quiet moment and listen with an open heart. Tomorrow, August 17th, may feel different from an ordinary day, but you do not need to be afraid or expect something frightening. Think of this message as a gentle spiritual reminder to pay attention to the atmosphere around you, the conversations happening in your home, and the thoughts that have been sitting quietly inside your heart. Archangel Michael, in this reflection, represents courage, clarity, and peace. Perhaps something important is not arriving from outside at all. Perhaps it is a realization within you that changes the way you see your home, your family, or your future. Maybe there has been something you have wanted to say to someone close to you, but you kept postponing the conversation. Maybe there is a misunderstanding that could become easier when someone finally chooses honesty instead of silence. Maybe your home has felt ordinary lately, yet tomorrow gives you an opportunity to create a better atmosphere through one simple decision: speak kindly, listen carefully, and appreciate the people around you. Sometimes the biggest changes begin with very small moments. A sincere conversation can bring relief. A simple apology can restore peace. A few minutes spent together can create a memory that stays with you much longer than you expect. And perhaps there is something else you need to hear. You do not have to carry every worry into tomorrow. If your mind has been filled with questions about your future, your studies, your goals, your relationships, or the things you cannot control, take a breath and remind yourself that you are allowed to handle life one step at a time. You do not need to predict everything before it happens. You do not need to turn every coincidence into a sign. Stay grounded, stay thoughtful, and focus on what you can actually do. Your peace is valuable, and you deserve to experience tomorrow without unnecessary fear. Maybe August 17th can simply become a day when you choose something different. Choose gratitude instead of constant comparison. Choose communication instead of assumptions. Choose patience instead of rushing. Choose hope instead of repeatedly replaying yesterday's disappointments. If there is someone at home you appreciate, tell them. If there is something you have been avoiding because it matters to you, take one small step toward it. If you have been working toward a goal, keep going. A meaningful change does not always announce itself dramatically. Sometimes you recognize it only afterward, when you realize that one small decision started a completely different chain of events. So tonight, before you sleep, take a peaceful moment and ask yourself, what do I want to bring into my home tomorrow? More kindness? More understanding? More gratitude? More confidence? Choose one, and carry it with you. Let tomorrow be less about waiting for something mysterious to happen and more about being ready to notice the good that is already possible. Beloved soul, maybe the change you are waiting for does not need to arrive with noise or drama. Sometimes something important shifts inside a home through one conversation, one realization, one decision, or one moment when someone finally chooses to say what has been sitting in their heart for a long time. As you move toward August 17th, do not fill your mind with fear about what might happen. Instead, enter the day with awareness and peace. Archangel Michael, in this spiritual reflection, represents courage, clarity, and the strength to face change with a calm heart. Perhaps tomorrow gives you an opportunity to notice something you have overlooked, to understand someone a little better, or to recognize how much your home means to you. The people around you may have their own worries, hopes, and dreams, just as you do, and sometimes the atmosphere in a home changes simply because one person decides to bring more patience into the room. Maybe someone in your home has been carrying something they have not known how to express. It could be a simple concern, a personal goal, an apology they have been thinking about, or something they have wanted to share but kept postponing. You may not know exactly what another person is thinking, and you do not need to guess. Instead, create an environment where honest communication feels possible. Ask how someone is doing. Listen without immediately trying to fix everything. Give people space to explain themselves. A small conversation can sometimes reveal that two people were never truly against each other, they were simply seeing the same situation from different perspectives. If there has been tension, choose calm words. If there has been distance, allow a respectful conversation to begin naturally. You do not have to solve every issue in one evening. Sometimes simply opening the door to better communication is already a meaningful beginning. Perhaps the shift you need is connected to your own mindset. Maybe you have been carrying an old worry into every new day, expecting something to go wrong because something went wrong before. But tomorrow does not have to repeat yesterday. You can learn from your past without allowing it to control your expectations. If something disappointed you before, ask what it taught you. If a conversation went badly, think about what you could communicate differently next time. If you made a mistake, decide what you can do better. This is how growth works. You do not erase the past, you take its lessons and use them to make wiser choices. Your home can become a place where you feel safe enough to learn, make mistakes, apologize, improve, and begin again. Maybe there is also a small blessing already present in your home that you have become too accustomed to notice. Perhaps it is someone who checks on you, someone who prepares food, someone who listens when you talk, or simply the comfort of having a familiar place where you can rest and be yourself. We often notice the value of ordinary things only when circumstances change, so take time to appreciate them while they are here. Tell someone you appreciate them. Help with something without being asked. Put your phone aside for a few minutes and have a real conversation. These actions may seem simple, but they can change the emotional atmosphere around you. A peaceful home is not created by perfection. It is created through repeated small acts of respect, patience, and consideration. And if tomorrow feels ordinary, that does not mean this message was meaningless. Not every important change is visible immediately. Sometimes the most valuable thing that happens is that you become more aware of your own choices. You notice how quickly you react. You notice when you are comparing yourself to someone else. You notice when you are avoiding a conversation. You notice when you need rest. Awareness gives you the opportunity to choose differently. That choice may not create a dramatic moment, but it can gradually improve the way you experience your life. Maybe you have been thinking about your future and wondering whether your current circumstances will always remain the same. Remember that homes change, families grow, people mature, and circumstances evolve. You are also becoming a different person every year. The goals you have today may not be exactly the goals you have later, and that is okay. You are allowed to learn more about yourself. You are allowed to discover new interests. You are allowed to make mistakes and adjust your direction. The important thing is that you continue moving toward a life built on healthy values, meaningful relationships, learning, and personal growth. So when August 17th arrives, do not spend the day waiting nervously for something extraordinary. Instead, make the day meaningful through your own actions. Wake up with gratitude. Notice the people around you. Be patient during small disagreements. Give yourself time to think before responding. Work on something that matters to you. If there is something you have been avoiding because it feels difficult, take one small step. You may be surprised by how much can change when you stop waiting for a perfect moment and begin creating better moments yourself. Perhaps the most important message is this: your home can become a place where a new chapter begins, not because something mysterious suddenly appears, but because you decide to bring something new into it. Bring more understanding. Bring more patience. Bring more gratitude. Bring more honesty. Bring the courage to communicate instead of assuming. Bring the willingness to listen instead of immediately defending yourself. These qualities can transform ordinary moments into meaningful ones. And if there is something you cannot control, release the need to predict it. You do not have to know exactly what tomorrow will bring. You can prepare by becoming calmer, wiser, and more thoughtful today. If something unexpected happens, pause before reacting. If someone shares something important, listen carefully. If an opportunity appears, consider it thoughtfully. If a difficult conversation begins, remember that you can remain respectful even when emotions are strong. Your response is one of the most powerful things you can control. Beloved soul, perhaps this is what Archangel Michael's message represents for you: not fear of what is coming, but courage for whatever comes. You do not need to be afraid of change. Change can teach you. Change can reveal new possibilities. Change can help you understand yourself and the people around you more deeply. And sometimes the change you need begins with something as simple as choosing a different response today. Tonight, take a quiet moment and think about one thing you want to improve in your home. Maybe it is communication. Maybe it is gratitude. Maybe it is spending more quality time together. Maybe it is creating a calmer environment for yourself. Choose one small action and begin there. Do not try to change everything at once. Let small improvements become habits, and let those habits gradually create a better atmosphere. Tomorrow does not need to be perfect to be meaningful. It only needs to give you another opportunity to learn, appreciate, communicate, and grow. Whatever happens, meet it with a calm mind and a hopeful heart. You are not required to know the entire story before the next page is written. Beloved soul, as August 17th approaches, perhaps the most important thing to remember is that you do not need to wait for something dramatic to understand that change is happening. Sometimes the atmosphere in a home begins to feel different because someone finally decides to communicate honestly, forgive an old misunderstanding, appreciate what they have, or stop carrying yesterday's worries into today. In this spiritual reflection, Archangel Michael represents courage, clarity, and peaceful strength. So instead of wondering what mysterious event might happen, look at what is already happening around you. Maybe someone has been quieter than usual. Maybe there is a conversation that needs more patience. Maybe you have been thinking about your future and realizing that some things need to change. These moments can become meaningful when you meet them with awareness instead of fear. You cannot control everything that happens in your home, but you can control the energy you bring into your conversations, your choices, and the way you treat the people around you. Perhaps someone close to you has been waiting for the right moment to say something important. It may be an apology, an idea, a personal goal, or simply something they have been carrying in their thoughts. You do not need to guess what it is, because guessing can create unnecessary confusion. Instead, become someone who makes honest communication easier. Ask how people are doing. Listen without immediately judging. If there has been a misunderstanding, give everyone enough space to explain their side. Sometimes two people can care about each other deeply and still misunderstand each other's intentions. One person may think they are protecting the relationship while the other feels ignored. One may think they are giving space while the other feels distant. A calm conversation can reveal what assumptions were hiding. You do not need to solve everything in one conversation. Sometimes simply saying, "I want to understand," can be the beginning of a completely different atmosphere. Maybe the shift on August 17th is actually connected to you. Perhaps you have been carrying a thought that you are ready to release. Maybe you have been comparing your life with someone else's, worrying about the future, or replaying something that happened in the past. You may not be able to change what already happened, but you can decide what you carry forward. Ask yourself whether an old disappointment is still controlling your choices. Ask whether you are avoiding something meaningful because you are afraid of making a mistake. Ask whether you have been waiting for someone else to give you permission to move forward. Sometimes the most important change begins when you quietly tell yourself, "I am ready to approach this differently." That does not mean ignoring reality or making impulsive decisions. It means choosing growth instead of remaining trapped in the same thought pattern. And perhaps there is something beautiful already present inside your home that you have stopped noticing because it has become familiar. Maybe someone regularly checks on you. Maybe someone supports your goals. Maybe there is laughter, comfort, food, conversation, or simply a place where you can rest after a difficult day. Ordinary blessings can become invisible when we see them every day. Take a moment to appreciate them. Tell someone thank you. Help with something. Spend a few minutes listening instead of staying distracted. These small actions can change the feeling of a home more powerfully than a dramatic announcement ever could. A peaceful home is not created because everyone agrees all the time. It is created when people repeatedly choose respect, patience, understanding, and kindness. If tomorrow does not bring some huge event, do not think that nothing meaningful happened. Sometimes change begins so quietly that you only recognize it later. Maybe you finally understand what you want. Maybe you have a conversation that helps you see someone differently. Maybe you decide to take your studies, work, creativity, or personal goals more seriously. Maybe you realize that you have been stronger than you gave yourself credit for. These are real changes. Your life does not need to become completely different overnight for progress to be happening. So when August 17th arrives, do not spend the day waiting nervously for something to happen. Create a meaningful day through your own choices. Wake up with gratitude. Speak with patience. Listen carefully. Work toward one goal. Appreciate someone in your home. Give yourself permission to rest when you need it. If something unexpected happens, pause before reacting and give yourself time to understand it. You do not need to predict the future to be prepared for it. You only need to remain calm, thoughtful, and willing to learn. Perhaps that is the real message behind this spiritual reflection. The change you are waiting for may begin with the way you respond. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can choose whether you bring peace or unnecessary conflict, understanding or assumptions, gratitude or constant dissatisfaction. One small choice can influence another, and eventually those choices can change the atmosphere around you. Tonight, take a quiet breath and say, I welcome peace, clarity, love, and positive change into my home. Let tomorrow come naturally. You do not need to be afraid of change, and you do not need to force it either. Stay present, stay grounded, and allow each moment to teach you something. Beloved soul, as we reach the final part of this message, remember that you do not need to be afraid of tomorrow or spend the night trying to predict exactly what will happen. The most meaningful change may be something simple that becomes important because of how you respond to it. Perhaps tomorrow gives you a chance to speak with someone you have been distant from, appreciate someone who has quietly supported you, or finally make a decision you have been thinking about for a long time. Maybe the shift happens within your own heart when you realize that you no longer want to carry the same worries, comparisons, or doubts into another chapter of your life. In this spiritual reflection, Archangel Michael represents courage, clarity, and peaceful strength, so let the message be about becoming prepared rather than becoming afraid. You do not need to know what tomorrow will bring. You only need to decide that whatever comes, you will meet it with patience, wisdom, and an open mind. Maybe something in your home has been waiting for your attention. It could be a conversation that keeps getting postponed, a relationship that needs more understanding, or even your own need for rest and emotional space. Sometimes we become so focused on our responsibilities that we forget to notice the atmosphere around us. We move through the same rooms, follow the same routines, and assume everything will remain exactly the same. But people are always changing. Their thoughts change, their goals change, and their needs change. You are changing too. That is why communication becomes important. Ask the people close to you how they are doing. Listen without immediately trying to solve everything. If someone shares something difficult, give them room to speak. If you have something important to say, choose your words carefully. A peaceful conversation can sometimes accomplish more than hours of silent thinking. Perhaps you have been waiting for someone else to make the first move, but maybe the healthier choice is to focus on what you can control. You cannot force someone to understand you, but you can communicate clearly. You cannot make another person change, but you can decide how you respond. You cannot control every circumstance inside your home, but you can choose whether you contribute patience or unnecessary tension. This does not mean accepting disrespect or ignoring important problems. It means recognizing the difference between what deserves your attention and what does not. Sometimes protecting your peace means speaking honestly. Sometimes it means listening. Sometimes it means taking a little time before responding. Wisdom is knowing which response fits the situation. And perhaps August 17th can become a reminder to appreciate what you already have. There may be people around you whose efforts you rarely notice because they have become part of your everyday life. Someone may prepare something for you, check on you, encourage you, or simply be there when you need company. These ordinary actions can become some of the most meaningful parts of life. Do not wait for a special occasion to show appreciation. A simple "thank you," a kind message, or a few minutes of genuine conversation can make someone feel valued. When gratitude becomes part of a home, the atmosphere can change gradually. You begin noticing what is good instead of focusing only on what is missing. Maybe the biggest shift is happening within you. Perhaps you are becoming more aware of the thoughts you allow to occupy your mind. You may be learning that not every worry deserves hours of attention. Not every coincidence needs a hidden meaning. Not every uncomfortable moment means something bad is coming. Sometimes a thought is simply a thought, and you are allowed to let it pass. When you learn this, you create more space for peace. You can notice your feelings without allowing them to control every decision. You can acknowledge uncertainty without assuming the worst. You can remain hopeful without needing to know exactly what happens next. If you have been carrying an old disappointment, perhaps tomorrow can be another opportunity to release some of its weight. You do not have to pretend that the past did not matter. You can recognize what happened, understand what it taught you, and decide what you want to do differently now. Maybe you need to communicate better. Maybe you need stronger boundaries. Maybe you need to stop comparing yourself to other people. Maybe you need to give yourself permission to begin again. Whatever the lesson is, take it with you and leave the unnecessary guilt behind. Your past can be part of your story without becoming the author of your future. Beloved soul, there is also no need to force a dramatic interpretation of tomorrow. If something wonderful happens, appreciate it. If the day feels ordinary, appreciate that too. A peaceful ordinary day can be a blessing. You can still use it to learn, connect, work toward your goals, and create meaningful memories. The value of a day is not determined by whether something extraordinary happens. Sometimes the most important progress happens quietly, when you make one good decision that nobody else notices. So tonight, prepare your heart for August 17th with peace instead of pressure. Before you sleep, think about one thing you are grateful for, one thing you want to improve, and one person you can appreciate. Then let the rest go. You do not need to solve your entire future tonight. Tomorrow will bring its own moments, and you can meet them one at a time. If a conversation appears, listen. If an opportunity appears, think carefully. If someone needs encouragement, offer it. If you need a moment of quiet, take it. You can move through the day without constantly searching for a sign. Perhaps the deepest message here is that your home does not need to become perfect for your life to move forward. It only needs small moments of kindness, communication, patience, and understanding. You can be part of creating those moments. You can decide that your words will be thoughtful. You can decide that your reactions will be calmer. You can decide that you will appreciate people more openly. You can decide that you will not allow every small misunderstanding to become a permanent distance. These choices may seem simple, but repeated choices can create a completely different atmosphere over time. And when you think about Archangel Michael in this reflection, think of courage rather than fear. Think of the courage to communicate honestly, the courage to begin again, the courage to admit when you are wrong, the courage to ask for help, and the courage to believe that a difficult chapter does not have to define everything that comes next. Let that be what you carry into tomorrow. You do not need to know exactly what will happen. You simply need to know that you can respond with wisdom when it does. Take one final breath and say, I welcome peace, clarity, gratitude, and positive change into my home. I am ready for a new beginning. Let those words become a reminder, not a prediction. Your future is still unfolding, and you have the ability to participate in it through your choices, your habits, your relationships, and the way you treat yourself and others. Whatever tomorrow brings, remember that you do not have to face it with fear. Meet it with awareness. Meet it with patience. Meet it with hope. And if something changes, give yourself time to understand what that change means before deciding how you feel about it. Sometimes a new chapter begins quietly, and sometimes you only recognize its importance after you have already taken the first step. I choose peace, clarity, and a beautiful new beginning. Like, comment and subscribe for more uplifting messages.